Hi everyone, welcome to Artist Talk. I'm Juliana Forero, and today I'm talking with Jordan Guzman about her solo exhibition at the age of 17 at Bailey Contemporary Art Center. This series of intimate paintings invite the audience to explore the transformation into adulthood. Hi Jordan, I'm so happy to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with the title of the exhibition. What is the age of 17? And can you tell us more about the exhibition and what can visitors expect when they come to see your show?
The Edge of 17 is a title that came to me when I was writing the statement for the show. And what it means is that you are not a child, but you're not yet an adult. And that title and having all the work that was made after I was 17, between the ages of 17 and 29 or 28, to me is a representation of trying to figure out who you are as a person, what values you have, and what comes from your family of origin, and then what do you get to define for yourself. What my hope is that when people see my artwork, they see a genuine search, somebody who's just after some kind of personal truth, somebody who's making connections between um, family, between life, between upbringing, between inner, like what they're interested in, and how to take all of that information, synthesize it, and then create a life that's authentic to the person that you are.
So when people hear the age of 17, they may think about the Stevie Nicks song. So can we talk about some of the influences, especially that song was part of it, and what other people have influenced your art?
A lot of my influences come from music, and I'm very interested in rhythm and dance as well as art and painting. And something that happens to me when I'm living my life, or something happens, or I hear a word or phrase, something that somebody says, lyrics and music always comes to mind. And when I was writing the statement and thinking about how at the age of 17 this kind of awakening happened, I thought of that song which I had been singing for a month prior, and I knew that that had to be the title of the show.
And what is really interesting is when I visited your studio, and even when we think about the age of 17 for many cultures as like a rite of passage, and when I was looking at your artworks when we were trying to make a selection of what to include, there seemed to me, and we talked about it, and there may be even some rituals reflected in your artwork. So has that even been really an influence, and have some artists influence your art?
Definitely. I mean, in Latin culture, it would be, a quinceañera would be that kind of ritual that passes you on from childhood to adulthood. And as American culture, you turn 18 and you become an adult. But what does that really mean to be an adult? Some of us are a lot older and still trying to define what it means to be on our own and away from our families. So, influences for me have not been limited to like big name artists. That I've always been connected to having musical artists or just people in history that were very, or spiritual leaders really are, I love Oprah. And any spiritual leaders or gurus or somebody that has like, is after a truth or is after just seeking knowledge. And I think everybody has that, and I'm always picking up tidbits from everywhere and synthesizing it and then seeing what it means to me, and then having that lived out in my life. As far as artistic influences, Frida Kahlo definitely is one of my bigger influences, and also Mark Rothko, and and Kandinsky, because they were trying to find like the essence of painting, the essence of humanity and spirituality, and trying to mix spirituality and art together in order to bring in experience, almost a meditative or spiritual experience to people. And with Frida, that her culture and her upbringing and what people expected out of her, and what she, almost rebellious in that aspect, like combining those two ideas is intriguing to me when I think of actual artists who, care about art and spirituality and culture and their upbringing and what that means to people themselves.
It is fascinating, and I cannot wait to see, the exhibition put on the walls, and how all these will be kind of looking into your soul, what you've been through when you started with the age of 17. But I remember, like, when we visited your studio, for you, this is kind of like a closing, in a way of a retrospective. You're moving on from this project. Do you want to talk about what, how do you realize this is the end of this project, and what are you working on?
The artwork that I'm making in the show, in this retrospective or mini retrospective of 10 years, um, is more about spirituality and starting that process of self-awareness and defining, kind of like uprooting a lot of old belief systems about spirituality, about religion, about culture and identity. And those themes are still going to be in my next body of work, but it'll be through the lens of gender and sexuality instead. And I can already see that going that way. So I've been thinking about my work in terms of like retrospectives, like over the next 10 years, over the next decade, because you have to be able to look back to really see, and space and time is a big part of that.
I have to ask because I'm really curious. I mean, your work is really introspective, and you keep looking into your soul and your interest. And I've been asking to the guest in this artist talk, because almost everyone has been affected by the pandemic. By most of them is because they were always looking outside, and they were forced to look inside. But for you, has the pandemic, all these lockdowns that we lived last year, did this affected your work in any way, or for you was just, continuation of what you already did?
I The way that the pandemic has influenced my work in life is that when it first started and the world fell silent, I was really excited because I thought finally everybody's gonna, be introspective, and they're gonna like, look inward, and I've been talking about this for a long time, and people need to sit with themselves. We don't like sitting with ourselves, and now we're forced to. And then it got to be a little much for even somebody as introverted as myself. And I think for me, it I see how much I need other people, and how much people need people, and how even me as being like introverted and focused on the self still needs to like to connect, and still need um, to be able to rely on a network of people. And it takes a village to raise yourself. And not just children are in need of that. And especially people who are kind of like have a fierce independence about them also need to learn and to be vulnerable, and to rely and reach out on other people. So I think that's kind of forced me to connect more. Whereas before I needed a break from socializing or something, like I needed to reach out more to other people.
And I think you have a key word for my last question, and is when you said people need to learn. You've been an art educator in different platforms, and I'm just curious to see what for you is so important in sharing the arts, and what is the essence that you like to teach to your students in general.
The intention isn't to like I have to go help people, because I think in that you see other people as flawed or broken, and I need to go in and help. And that's not what it's about. For me, it's been about, let me show you what's in my heart. Well, let me show you or talk to you, ask me questions, and I'll share with you my perspective. And that will lead to something true and genuine in you. And you take that and be your authentic and truest self. And by my example, by just me living the life that I live, then that's its own influence. And I like to show people that, or with children especially, it's important to just show them that they can be who they are, that they have gifts and talents that the world needs to know, that they all have a special message that only they can share. And and you can tap into that, and the way you tap into it is through deep breathing, through like these artistic practices, dancing, writing, whatever it is. Like latch onto that, because it keeps us human. And you guys need to know, all my kids know, like, you guys need to know that you're human, that you have a message, you need to share it, and to just be yourselves, be and embrace the fullness of who you are.
It's such a powerful message, and I am sure this is going to be such a powerful exhibition. I thank you, Jordan, so much for your time this morning with me to talk about your show. I cannot wait to see it, and I cannot wait to have more conversations about this show and to hear what the people have to say about interacting and visiting your show. So thank you so much for you, for sharing us, and for the opportunity. And for those watching us today, thank you so much for tuning in.